This dog lives next door. They're all females. He wants to come over and be with a guy. Because a man is a dog's best friend. Or is it a dog is a man's best friend? Tyson, what do you think about that, boy? What are you doing on my leather seats? I paid $400 for this chair. You got dog hairs all over it. Say goodbye, YouTube. Hey. And I have a killer. If you subscribe to my channel, you know I've been testing an awful lot of expensive cars and SUVs as of late. This $110,000 Lexus, the $65,000 Lexus SUV, Mercedes convertible, $95,000. Not to mention expensive gas guzzling trucks like this Raptor, that was around 75 grand. A Ford F-250, 84 grand. Wow. So I decided to get a car that normal people drive, you know, things we can afford. I'm sitting in it right now, and we'll show it to you as soon as I get out of this hurricane. And here it is, a nice squeaky clean, fresh out of the car wash Mazda 3 with a nice metallic red paint. I'm sure they charge extra for this. We'll find out when we look at the price sheet. The base price of a Mazda 3 starts at a reasonable $21,000. This was a premium model loaded up with about everything you can get from the factory. Pardon my shaky hand. Don't have a tripod anymore. Here's a list of goodies. A price, but we're not done yet. I can't believe they're charging for a cargo mat. Seriously? Among other items. More to the numbers. There you go. For the money, you'll be happy to know this Japanese brand is actually made in Japan by Japanese workers, something that helps justify the price, as well explains the excellent quality control. The only engine offered is a 2.5 liter putting out 186 horsepower, hooked to a 6-speed manual transmission, and the base models are 6-speed automatic in the deluxe versions like this. Fuel economy rated 24 in the city, 32 on the highway, 27 overall. By the way, this has all-wheel drive for 4-wheel drive traction. We'll talk about that a little bit later. For those of you who like to drive in a hurry, there's a sport button located by the shifter. Pardon the dust. We've had windstorms the past couple days and I just can't get rid of this. In any case, just press it, drive away. Or if you want to shift gears for yourself, choose them manually. Just flick it over to the left. That's all you have to do. Or you can choose gears manually with the paddle shifters on the steering wheel, located here. Lots of choices for you. Nothing fancy looking in the headlight slot, just one big light on each side. We'll take these out in the dark right now and see what they do. It's dark enough, we'll take these lights out and see what they do. Look pretty bright to me. Here we have the low beams on a wall 100 feet away. Bright, but a bit low to the ground. High beams look good. We'll try the high beams somewhere else at a longer distance. Here we have the high beams on a building 300 feet away. Pretty bright, good widespread, good height, good low beam. Doesn't quite reach, but adequate enough for city driving. Being a hatchback, you have the ability to haul lots of gear, especially if the second row seats are folded down. Yes, there is a spare tire under there. Something you don't get with lots of cars nowadays. Helps to look. Our brainless government bureaucrats rate this as a 5-passenger, which is nonsense. You got 2 in the front, 2 full-size adults in the second row, I guess a third one goes in the hatch trunk. This is a 4-passenger like all vehicles this size, but comfortably so. If you watch my videos, one of the biggest complaints I have is the so-called dirt shelf where debris builds up and gets on your pants, but not a problem here because they put it under the bodywork. And the rocker panels aren't that wide. So not an issue here, very well designed. We get a nice large glove box, lots of room in there. The climate controls, very simple to operate, just a few buttons. The navigation and info screen's not the biggest I've ever used, but adequate enough, I suppose. The gauge cluster is well designed. Unfortunately, we get that plastic cover. As we're finding on many Japanese cars, we get lots of glare. You just have to live with it. I do have some gripes, and these are more personal opinions than facts. You might agree, might disagree. Just things that I do not like. Number one of the reasons I've always liked Mazda vehicles were the simple controls, but as of late, we're getting all these complicated knobs and info screen stuff where everything has to be routed through the info screen. Too complicated. Why bother with all this? If it doesn't bother you, that's fine. Number two, Mazda used to use the manual parking brakes more, but they're getting away from that with these electronic parking brakes. I don't like these things. I don't like this one because it's making me stick in the driveway several times. I put it in drive or reverse, the car will not move. And I have to sit there and beat the living you-know-what out of this button. A quirk to this particular car. We'll see if we can get that fixed. Number three, this car has a heads-up display. You can see it right there reflecting in the windshield, a little blurry because it's kind of bright outside. I don't want this. I want to turn it off. Problem is, you can't really do that. You can temporarily turn it off by getting on the info screen, pressing it like so. Now it went away. Problem is, you turn the vehicle off, start it again, and it pops right back up. Using the KISS principle, K-I-S-S, keep it simple, stupid. Black sock, stick it in the hole. No more heads-up display. And last but not least, there's something called driver attention alert. And the way it works, supposedly, from the tech sheet I read, there's a camera located somewhere in here. It scans your face. If it thinks you're not paying attention, beeps out a warning on the dash somewhere. I must be an alert person because it hasn't beeped on me yet, but I don't want something scanning my face. No. I'm going to put some tape over that hole there. Don't want that either. There's also a feature in here I'm not going to cover, automatic steering, where the car can steer itself and brake itself. Here's the bottom line. I love Mazda cars. The quality is excellent, the price is right, they drive good. I just don't want all this technology junk on here because I don't find it useful at all. But that's me. If you like this stuff, you won't be complaining as much as I am. So, with that being said, let's get on with the test. I stated earlier this vehicle has all-wheel drive. The advantage here is you get four-wheel drive traction. If you live where the roads are slick from rain, ice, or snow, it's a real lifesaver. On the other hand, if you live in the desert like this, where it hardly ever rains, all-wheel drive really isn't a good investment. It puts a lot of strain on the engine. It kind of knocks your fuel economy down a notch or two. In this case, how much? We'll find out when we rack some miles up. The power steering on this car is a bit on the light side, and being electric, it doesn't have much feel. But I don't care because it's very quick and responsive, and very pleasurable to use anyway. I don't think there's going to be too many complaints with this. I give it a thumbs up. I was told this is the same power steering system used in the Mazda MX-5 Miata sports car. Probably true. Feels as good. As we do in all of my videos, we're going to drive over some mild speed bumps around 20 to 25 miles per hour to evaluate the suspension performance on impact. Here comes bump number 1. Heard some thumping, but didn't feel too much. This is a pretty smooth riding vehicle. Number 2. Number 3. More noise than anything else. Number 4. Yep, that was a big nasty bump. These tires are noisy, but I didn't feel anything in the suspension. Overall, pretty smooth car. Let's say smoother than it sounds. No, we're not going to hit that bump. That's a super bad one. You don't take that more than 10 miles per hour. I've never driven a Mazda product that didn't handle good, so let's take the turning circle and try not to run over that cactus that just fell out in front of me. A bit of body lean, but we're hanging in there pretty good. I'm sure all-wheel drive is helping. Hang in there. These are very nice brakes, by the way. Perfect feel. This Mazda 3 is an excellent daily commuter. It's very smooth, quiet, comfortable. Low wind noise. Adequate power once you get going. Definitely something I could drive every day. The only question, what type of fuel economy are we going to get? We'll drive it for a couple of days, then we'll find out. So far in mixed commuting, expressway and heavy city driving, I'm only getting 19.5. We're going to reset the clock, do an expressway trip, and see if we can bump up this figure a bit. This vehicle has a so-called safety system, automatic steering. A sensor reads the white lines left and right. You can take your hand off the wheel, it steers itself. Unfortunately, it's not working out too well on this rough construction pavement. It's confusing the system, and I'm having to fight the wheel left and right to stay in a straight line. It's very annoying. I'm going to have to find a way to disconnect this if possible. I do not like it at all. We'll talk about this later on in the video. That was the end of our little trip. I'll pull over and see what the fuel economy number says on the dash. Well, 28.5, averaging around 70 to 75 miles per hour. That's a little better. And it appears if you press this button, you disconnect the automatic steering system. I'll be disconnecting it for the entire test. I don't need this. If you want it, fine, not for me. Auto light system malfunction. Once again, another electronic gadget we really don't need failing. I'm told the base Mazda 3 doesn't have this automatic light system. Could be wrong. If true, I think I'd order the car without it. But then again, I don't like automatic gadgets. That's just me personally. Doesn't mean you have to think that way. There's one feature about this car I find very annoying, and that is when you press the gas pedal down to accelerate, like I'm doing right here, the air conditioning cuts out. It's one of those fuel-saving features. We find this other cars as well as Mazdas every now and then. That means, temporarily, instead of cold air coming out of the vents, you're getting hot air. And yes, the hot air only comes out for 3 or 4 seconds, but at 109 degrees outside, that's 3 or 4 seconds too long. Mazda's not the only car maker that has this feature on some of their models, and it's just another silly device for silly regulations. Unfortunately, you've got a car that has this, you're stuck with it. So on a hot day, you might want to keep your foot off that accelerator. This guy must have his mother-in-law in the trunk. Not exactly the most level car I've ever seen. Unbelievable. So what's my take on this Mazda 3 after a week of driving? Well, basically I like it. It's just like the Mazda 6, only smaller. Got a peppy engine, excellent handling, strong brakes, quick steering. Very pleasant to drive on a daily basis. And if you live where the roads are slick, this all-wheel drive can come in handy, but if you live in the desert where there's no slick roads like this environment here, ordering all-wheel drive, there's just no reason to do it. All it does is hurt your fuel economy. In that case, you need to go with two-wheel drive. Save yourself some money, too. If I needed a small four-door economy car, I would consider the Mazda 3, but I would order one without all the gadgets, as little as possible. You just don't need this stuff. There's something else to go wrong. But that's me, my opinion. If you like toys to play with, order a Mazda 3 with all the gadgets. In the meantime, here are some links to other vehicles we tested. Just click and watch.